by choosing A. We chose A. A little note here. It doesn't matter whether these are complex or have a radical in them or fractions. We can always plug them into the formula and it'll work out nicely for the problems that you guys have to do. So I'm going to make a little note on the side. Note. We had radicals in our roots. Doesn't matter. If you have i's or imaginary numbers, same thing. So that's what I'm going to write. If you have imaginary roots, same way, works out the same way. Works the same way. What I'm saying is, don't be scared. It'll be fine. Just do the same thing. It's the same thing. Alright, next example. The instructions are find a quadratic function f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c for the parabola described. And the parabola described will have a max value at 8, or the maximum value is 8. Max value is 8. X intercepts are 3 and 7. So this is the information given. 3 and 7. So, a few things that are different about these instructions and the last instructions were, first, that we're supposed to write a quadratic function, not just an equation, but a function. This means we'll have to use the notation f of x or g of x or whatever, and not be equaling 0. So, in this case, it'll be equal to f of x and not 0. So that's one difference. Another thing is they give us a description of the parabola, and they say that x-intercepts are 3 and 7. Well, let me give you a note here. Note. X-intercepts are the same thing as zeros, and zeros are the same thing as roots. These are all the same thing, different words meaning the same thing. So if they say they give you x-intercepts, they've also given you the roots. In this case, the roots are 3 and 7, so we can still use our formula that we had on the last page. A warning, I want to say a warning for these ones. Cannot choose a value. Must find it. So when you are dealing with quadratic functions, or when they ask you to find a quadratic function, you can't choose your a value to be whatever you want. You have to find it. Okay? So the first thing we have to do here in this case, in this example, is find the vertex. And we can do that by drawing a picture. Later on you won't even have to draw a picture, but let's see. So just by this information, the x-intercepts are at 3 and 7. So I'm going to draw the x-intercepts, 3 and 7. Excuse me. And we have a maximum value that is 8. So that means on the y-axis, our vertex will be 8 units high. This means, since we have a maximum value, that our parabola has to open downwards. If it opened upwards, we wouldn't have a maximum point because the two ends of the parabola keep going on forever. So we know, since we have a maximum value, that our parabola opens downwards. And this maximum value has a y coordinate of 8 because in the last notes we said that the maximum or minimum value is just the y coordinate of the vertex. We need to find the x coordinate. Something that is always true for parabolas is the x coordinate is always on the axis of symmetry, and the axis of symmetry is always halfway between the roots or the zeros or the x-intercepts. So all we have to do to find the x value of the vertex is to find the middle point of the roots. And we can do that by finding the average. So we just go 3 plus 7 divided by 2. This is taking the average of the roots or the x-intercepts. 3 plus 7 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. So the x-coordinate will be 5. And we can check this. How far away is 3 from 5? Well, 3, 4, 5, it's 2 away. And then how far away is 7 from 5? 5, 6, 7. It's 2 also. So it's directly in the middle, right where it should be. So the vertex is located at 5, 8, and we'll use that later. Next thing is using our formula, except for we're going to have f equals our formula instead of our formula equaling 0. I can show you. Instead of having this part, we're going to have an f of x equals this. That's the only thing that's different. So f of x equals a times x squared, is it minus? Minus r1 plus r2, so the first root plus the second root, times x plus r1 times r2. No equals 0. We don't have to put that in, or we don't put that in on this case. So all we have to do right now is plug in our roots and then also use our vertex and find a. Once we found a, we'll plug it back in and we'll have a function. So there's r2 and r1. So let's plug in r2 and r1. F of x equals a times x squared minus 3 plus 7 times x plus 3 times 7. So f of x equals a times x squared minus 10x plus 21. Now, to find a, we use the vertex that we were given, or that we found out. And the vertex has an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. So what I'm going to do, since this is the vertex of the equation that I'm trying to find, I'm going to plug in the y-coordinate of the vertex for f of x. So instead of writing an f of x, I'm going to write 8. And instead of writing an x, I'm going to write a 5. So a times x, a times 5 squared, which is 25, minus 10 times 5, which is 50, plus 21. And that will give me 8 equals a times negative 4, I think that is. 25 plus 21 is 46, and then minus 50 is negative 4. So a equals negative 2. Now I can plug that back into here. So I'm plugging in a from here. I'm plugging it back into this one after I've plugged in the roots. I mean, all I'm missing is a. So after I've found a, I can just put it back in. And we will have f of x equals negative 2 times x squared minus 10x plus 21. And to simplify, I'm going to multiply through. That'll give me negative 2x squared plus 20x minus 42. And now I have a quadratic function that has these x-intercepts and a maximum value of 8. So this will be my answer. Let's write down the steps for this. So first step is finding the vertex. Find vertex. We did that by interpreting the maximum value as the y-coordinate of the vertex, and that's always going to be true. It might be a minimum value, but it's still the y-coordinate of the vertex. Then, to find the x-coordinate, so to find x-coordinate of the vertex, take the average of your x-intercepts, or the average of your roots. So take average of x-intercepts. And we did that to find the x-coordinate to be 5. So that's how we found our vertex. This was given, this we found, and we can move on to step 2. The next thing we did was plug in our roots. Plug in roots to formula. We did that and simplified. Now we need to find A. So after you've simplified, the third step is to solve for A by plugging in your vertex. 8, or the y-coordinate for the f of x, and the x-coordinate for the x's. So solve for A by plugging in vertex. Once you've solved for A, you can rewrite. So we solved for A and then we rewrote our equation, just putting A back in. So rewrite. And that's it.